Hello and welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of the Anime Kiwi podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Cat Doda. Every time you mention what episode number it is, I get a little bit more scared.
Well, we're almost done with the season. One more episode of the season after this. Then we reset.
Oh, I'm just imagining it now, not having to watch this show. It feels good.
You like it and you know it.
Lies.
You're all right with it and you know it.
Yeah, without joking, I am okay with the show, I guess. I kind of turn a little bit of a corner with these 5 episodes. I found myself, with the previous episodes where I was really not enjoying the show, I felt like when I go to watch the next episode, it was like pulling teeth. I just didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to keep continuing with it. But with these 5 episodes, I had no problem just clicking on the next one and watching it.
They had some good character work, these 5.
Yeah, I still, all of my criticisms with the show still stand. It's still far too melodramatic. It's still a case of, what else did I talk about? I had a weird blanking brain fart. With the way that the character takes, such a frontal presence within the show, and everything else kind of takes a backseat. These 5 episodes, there is a ton of Karada going on.
Yeah. It's a big training tournament arc thing.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this is like the Karada show with people as characters as kind of like a backdrop. And I've kind of made my peace with that, and I don't necessarily agree with it creatively, but, it doesn't mean it's a wrong creative decision. It's just something that I don't necessarily agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you? What do you think?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's a good, solid sports anime. I want to say probably the best sports anime I've seen to this point in my anime watching career.
But is there anything specific about it that you would think elevates it above those other anime?
All the characters are generally pretty likable. I don't think there's a character I dislike on the show they've introduced.
Well, your likable characters isn't necessarily a prerequisite for, good characters. You can have characters that are very intentionally unlikable, and that's, necessary for the show to work.
Yeah, but I feel like but you still, if they're an unlikable character, you still like
to unlike them?
Like to unlike them, yeah. It's not just, I don't like this character sucks.
Yeah, I think there's a few in there that, I guess my main problem with it is not necessarily that the characters are, likable or unlikable. It's that I just don't really know who they are. Because, there's so much character going on that we learn a lot about Chihaya, of course, because it kind of, the games reveal her psychology as she's playing through them and everything, but the other characters are kind of taking a back seat to it.
You get that for basically everyone except Nishida in these episodes, especially in the first one we watched.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like when it does have some character moments, it's only letting in little bits and pieces, and it's mostly, as I mentioned with Chihaya, it's more about the psychology of how they play the game rather than them as actual people.
I guess, but through the way they look at the card game, it seems to me like it's kind of how they approach other things too. Like in the first episode when Tsutomu was talking about all his analysis stuff and how he took notes on where cards were taken from in 20-something games. That kind of told me it's not just Karta he does this with. He super analyzes everything he does. Since he is a bookworm before, this is probably how he approaches most activities in his life.
Yeah, and, moments like that can work and everything, but I just think that framing all of those character development bits and all of that stuff around the card game itself, rather than just trying to develop the actual characters as people, just kind of rubbing me the wrong way, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how these shows generally work.
I just think, not to keep bashing on the point of the whole kids on the slope thing compared to this show, but I just think, compared with how deft and how elegant that show was written, and how they would manage to get a lot out about characters very quickly within small amounts of running time, compared to this, this show tends to linger on points for a very, very long time when in my head, I just keep thinking, you can move on, I get the idea. And, especially when as I said, the show is very melodramatic, they try to linger on points to ramp up the tension, and I feel like a lot of the tension just feels kind of unearned. Kind of comes back to the thing we mentioned with the superhero TV shows last episode, where that kind of the level of drama and it just doesn't feel like, I guess they think the card game is important and everything, and that's fine, but it just kind of feels like they're treating the card game far too dramatically compared to the actual outcomes of, if you lose one game and everything, it's not going to be the end of the world. But yeah.
I mean, at least for Chihaya, you can kind of tell that the card game is her world, especially, I forget what episode it was, they were doing the career survey, and all she could think to put was Queen. So to her, losing kind of is a big fucking deal if she can't progress.
Yeah, and
we're shown that it matters a lot to Taichi too, that he's able to advance.
It's kind of I guess, imagine if the show was written by the same people who wrote Kids on the Slope. Maybe that episode with the career day thing would end up being about how Chihaya becoming obsessed with this game is, kind of detrimental to her as a person. Her focusing on this card game and not trying to develop relationships and a career is kind of damaging. And it kind of seems like it's going that way.
They touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, but it kind of feels like, where that teacher saw that she was focusing on the meaning of those poems in the book, that she just kind of drops it. And if anything, that to me, that would be a sign of that she's just going down that rabbit hole even further, and then there's no coming back from it.
Well, maybe it's that she's getting interested in, as a byproduct, getting interested in the literature side of it, like Kana is too.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, all of these criticisms that I'm bringing up, if they end up doing something narratively with what I'm talking about, which they kind of did with Arata and his grandpa and everything, then, I'm more than happy to say I was wrong. They actually did something smart with this, but I kind of don't really see it happening.
You also need to remember this is a longer work than Kids on the Slope is, too.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the manga's got going on for nearly 10 years or something, right?
Yeah, and there's a second season of this, and who knows if they're doing a third season, but the comic's still going. So they're not just going to end everything quickly.
10 years just seems insane to me to be running a manga about a karate game, unless they've been doing one chapter at a time, every couple of months or something.
I'm not sure if B-Love is monthly or not.
Yeah, then that makes sense that would be going on that long then.
Yeah, I might be wrong. I'm just doing a cursory look at the web page here. It might be bi-monthly, but still.
But that would make even more sense.
Or no, twice monthly. I meant twice monthly.
Ah. Well,
that's what it looks like. I don't want to take the time to dig into this website.
Maybe in the last episode you can, not read through all of the manga because that would be insane, but kind of have a quick look about how it all unfolds and everything.
Yeah, maybe. But I also might want to watch the second season on my own, so I might not want to spoil that for myself. Although I guess I don't care too much about spoilers, but...
I guess more just look at how the same period in the manga unfolds, compared to the season 1.
Yeah, read this 26 episodes worth of the comic.
But I guess as I keep mentioning with the show being very melodramatic, there's something about the show that I've been kind of holding back on and not mentioning until now, that I think is kind of core to the issue with the show feeling too melodramatic. And because I thought people would be angry at me for saying this, but I think the soundtrack for this show is really bad.
I don't think it's bad, but it's just not noteworthy. They got the one theme that plays that's also the theme of this podcast, and they have different variations on that.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think it's badly composed music, as in it sounds perfectly pleasant on its own and everything.
It's just uninspired, kind of.
Yeah. Uninspired is definitely a good point, but I think tonally it doesn't fit the show at all. Like, those moments of melodrama are almost all soundtrack. Like, you take the soundtrack out of that, and the scene would work perfectly fine on its own without that music just going over the top. And it's just like every time those like wind chimes come in and there's like a freeze frame of somebody and whatever, and then like swelling like strings and stuff, and I'm just rolling my eyes. Like, I just really, really don't like the soundtrack.
I can see that. I don't really notice it. It's kind of a non-entity for me.
Oh, I got really, really annoyed by the soundtrack in these 5 episodes. I forget which episode it was specifically, but the soundtrack was being aggressively grating, and I wanted to find who wrote the music and punch them in the face.
If you go to our YouTube and click, or the podcast website and click any of the things, it'll tell you exactly who wrote it.
Hey man, I don't listen to our podcast. I got shit to do.
You should listen to the podcast. I make a good product. I make you sound smart.
You do? I thought that was impossible.
It's a hard task, but I do my best.
Well, I commend you for your effort. But yeah, I listen to it occasionally, actually, just to see how you're doing editing and sound mastering wise, which is, behind the scenes. Is kind of the reason I forwarded those templates to you the other day.
Yep, and I turned them into FX sets because I like that more.
Hooray, behind the scenes stuff.
But anyways, I do music credits for every time I use music. Most every time. I think I might have forgotten once.
But yeah, I feel like I should emphasize again that the music itself isn't poorly written. It's just I don't think it fits the show tonally.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyway, this is a big. This is probably one of the more character development arcs we've had for the 5 in the Karate Club, and kind of Arata too. Arata had the big thing with his grandpa in the last set, 2 sets ago.
The last set it was. But
the main 5 get their chance to develop a little bit more in these episodes, especially Chihaya and Taichi. Everyone but Nishida, basically.
Yeah, do you think they're going to do something with him in the last 4?
Maybe.
Because it kind of feels like they're not going to me.
It just kind of seems like he's there and he's fine guy, I guess.
He's the 5th wheel.
Yeah. He just wants to do well, which is fine. There's going to be someone like that in clubs like this.
He's like me in real life, just the guy, he's just there.
Yeah, it's like you on this podcast, too.
Oh, too mean. Too mean.
Okay, so the first episode here, episode 17, we see that Taichi is... first of all, this is the sports festival episode. And the Karate Club has entered because they're trying to increase their stamina so that they can play these long tournaments without being as exhausted as they were before. So we see them running a 5-man relay. And they, surprise, surprise, they win, beating even the track team, whose job it is to do relays.
It kind of seemed like that whole thing was anime bullshit to me. I don't think a relay with people wearing all the uniforms is a real thing. That can't be a real thing, right?
I think it might be a thing.
That's really dumb.
I mean, they do sports festivals like that at Japanese high school. I don't know the details because I didn't go to Japanese high school, but...
I did.
Oh. Did they do a thing like this at your Japanese high school?
I don't know. I didn't go to Japanese high school. I wanted to make a joke out of that, but I couldn't.
I tried.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Continue on with your recap.
So yeah, they win the relay. And people are like, oh, karate. More people are like, karata's a sport, I guess? Sure. But no one else is joining still, because they don't get karate. As we see in an aside at some point in these, I forget when. But Taichi has a schedule of upcoming tournaments throughout Japan. He's trying to figure out which ones people can go to so they can advance their goals. Because him and Nishida want to make Class A, which means they need to win one tournament each or something by the rules of their separate societies. Chihaya needs to get better so she can be able to face the queen without getting chumped. And the two new kids want to make Class C because advancing's good. In here, while this is happening, I'm not sure like what was up with this, but Taichi gets a phone call when he's looking at the schedule. He goes out in the hallway and he's like, oh, yeah, I guess we'll break up then. And he hangs up. And he apparently broke up with his girlfriend like it was nothing? I'm not sure how to read that.
No, this is another one of those things that I was talking about. This is the anti-Chekhov's gun thing that the show has going on for some fucking weird reason, where they just throw in random details and they end up meaning nothing at all, but they're just there for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was up with that.
But I guess that was mostly just to set up the fact that, you know, maybe he thinks... Well, they didn't even really do anything with that, actually, because I was going to say that perhaps they were going to set up him trying to date Chihaya thing, but they don't really do anything with that later on.
I feel they might go in that direction, but they don't. This doesn't seem like the kind of show that is going to focus on the relationship stuff. If it happens, it's probably just like going to happen. Maybe have an episode or two of repercussions on cards and then be fine.
Yeah, over the course of the episode, they showed Chihaya is close with him, but not in a romantic way, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't make sense.
But anyways, we see that Taichi's going to... It sounded like he took a plane to go to a tournament. So
he did.
Yeah, so they're showing off that he's super rich, or at least comparatively very rich to other people in the club. And then he discovers that Nishida and the weird guy from the old number 1 school are also going to these for the same thing. And they're all not getting what they want. They're coming in second or less, where they need to win to get their Class A. And the main thing in this episode was that we see what we were talking about earlier, how Chihaya, Tsutomu, and Kana specifically have their different card strengths and how it kind of shows how they live, I guess. We talked about Tsutomu before, but Kana's super into the history of things, and she looks at the poem. I don't understand how it works completely, probably because it's a language thing that I don't get, but Kana looks at the meanings of the poems, and that's how she knows what to go for. So she doesn't commit faults a lot. She doesn't go for the wrong cards. And that was the big thing with these 5 episodes.
I thought it was just bullshit, to be honest.
It could be. I mean, I don't...
Her recognizing the so-called shapes of the cards, I just think it's bullshit.
I don't know the language and culture, or the language and literature well enough to comment one way or the other on it. It could be a thing.
Well, it seemed like visually they were trying to demonstrate that, like, if the poem was about a mountain or something, that she sees the card as with the shape of a mountain, which doesn't logically make any sense at all, but, you know, whatever.
But they also showed she, like, knows how the different poets form their poems and is able to tell by the wordings what time period it's from, and is able to match it up that way.
None of that would help you play Corridor. Like, based on what we know about the game,
the last 2, I can see it working, but the
perhaps,
shapes thing.
But I feel like, you know, this is a show.
People's brains work different.
I suppose, but in terms of the skills you need to play this game, it looks like it's accuracy, reflexes, and memorization, basically.
It probably helps her memorize and recognize what's being read to act up with that.
Memorization, I guess it would help like that, because there's the whole... You ever heard of, like, a mind shrine, or whatever the hell they call it?
Nope.
Well, people that, you know... There are competitions for people who have, like, memory games, basically, where they remember, like, massive strings of numbers or whatever. And supposedly the technique that you use is you kind of build like a physical structure in your mind of everything that you memorize, and they call it like a mind shrine or something.
Okay. But yeah, it seems like her knowing the time periods and how the poets write kind of forms like memorization triggers for her. I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. That's probably what they were trying to say then.
Yeah. And they show later with the career thing that she wants to go to school for studying literature and stuff. So this is her focus. She likes traditional culture and literature and all that stuff. So she's drawn towards that in any form.
Weirdly enough, one of the better, like, more rounded characters in the show.
Yeah, she's
Like,
my favorite
maybe
character.
even more than...
She's my favorite character by a country mile.
Yeah. Like, she might even be more rounded than, like, Tai Chi or something.
Yeah.
Like, all you know about Tai Chi is that he's kind of an asshole.
But I think
I'm going to mention that he's an asshole every episode.
they kind of are working on him. It doesn't directly relate to him being an asshole, but they're doing stuff with him.
They're always doing stuff.
We talked about Shitomu and his analysis. And then Chihaya's was like a really good example of this parallel where she just got to go fast with Karta, and that kind of mirrors her never quit, don't think, just do mentality that she has for other things, like when they went to visit Arata and when they were recruiting the other members of the club.
I wonder what her stance on chili dogs is.
She seems like she'd like chili dogs.
Sweet.
But this arc is actually a pretty good complete arc. These 5 episodes was about her learning to slow it down and think a little bit more. But that was this episode. She goes to her car to society, and Dr. Harada says, "Hey, no more using that speed. Think before you do." And the next 4 episodes are her having trouble with that and figuring out how to make that work for her.
It seems kind of like bad teaching to just drop that on somebody but not clarify what you mean.
I guess. I feel like he has a handle on her enough to know that she'll figure it out because she's really fucking determined when it comes to this game.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have the 4 episodes of her in a turmoil about it.
Yeah.
So they kind of needed to do that for the whole arc to work properly.
Yeah, but if it's like somebody who's just learning and they're just really fast, that's not something to do. But we haven't seen that happen, so. But like the next episode, I feel like there's not a whole lot of plot to recap in these next episodes.
It's a whole lot of card playing.
There's a lot of cards playing. So we're at another tournament, and this is the one where Chihaya is not going to wear Hakama because it's super hot in there and they don't turn the air conditioning on because they need to be able to hear the reader. Which that seems like a bad thing, but
yeah, supposedly Japanese summers are like some of the worst in the world.
They're awful. They get really hot and humid.
Which is fucked up.
Yeah, it's super bad. But then they get a nice 2 months of like constant rain. And it's nice and warm out during the rain. Monsoon season's great.
Sounds fun.
This tournament everyone was at this tournament. And Chihaya, who is this? This was the older lady she was playing, right? The mom, who was kind of taunting her the whole time.
Yeah, it was a weirdly passive-aggressive tone to everything she was saying. Like, every time she would get complimented, she would say, "I know," rather than saying, thank you or something, which is a very passive-aggressive style of,
yeah,
I guess, having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah. But Chihaya's having trouble because she can't go fast. And this person playing is pretty good. She has a timing to the cards that Chihaya doesn't. And that's the main takeaway from this game, is that Chihaya starts to learn how to have timing for different syllable lengths of the cards. She knows that you need to take 3-syllable cards differently than you need to take 1-syllable cards. This is the start of her, I guess, leveling up is a good way to put it.
Are you saying the show's a video game?
I mean, the show's a game.
But is it a video game?
Yes.
We should probably try and track down a video game version of this Karate game. It probably is one, right?
I feel like there has to be.
It's got to be one in like the Japanese doujin scene or whatever.
Oh, a Dojin, maybe. Probably even, yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if the Simple series didn't have one even. Oh, hey, Kirby Superstar Ultra has a Karata minigame.
Which one's that? There's a lot of goddamn Kirby games.
Let's see. Kirby Superstar Ultra DS 2008.
That's recent.
I think that's the remake of Superstar.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's a Karata minigame, apparently. Called Kirby Swipe.
Gonna have to track that down then.
Yeah, maybe we should stream that or record that a little bit as a compliment to this. That's a fun fact. But anyways, Chihaya loses that match with the older lady. And she goes to watch the Class B and Class D finals. Class B is between Taichi and Nishida. And Class D is between Tsutomu and Kana. And she is struggling to pay attention to both matches. So she just kind of doesn't watch Taichi and Nishida at all. And so she's paying attention to Tsutomu and Kana. And she seems to be learning a lot from them, especially from Kana, I guess. Because Kana is playing differently here. And we learn that she plays different when she's in traditional clothing. Because the posture and how you are supposed to present yourself in traditional clothing is different. And that apparently helps her range of movement, I guess. And her physical being to be in those.
I guess that girdle-looking thing was supposedly supporting her.
It's just
her body.
It's just the belt of the thing.
But it looks pretty sturdy.
In the back of the hakama, there's like a hard plate that presses against you, and that's attached to the part you tie. So you want to get that fairly tight. Because it keeps your pants up.
Probably good for back support?
Yeah, it's kind of good for back support, actually. I'm not sure what it's made of in more expensive sets, but I know in cheaper sets like mine, it's like a thick cardboard, I think. Or thick cardstock. That's that episode. It ends on a cliffhanger. Neither of the matches are done. Tsutomu's having trouble against Kana because she's super, super accurate. And he apparently tends to break down when he starts losing. So he's making more and more mistakes. And then we get to episode 19. And Tsutomu is trying out a pocket strat where he moves all of his 8 remaining cards to one side, and his strategy is just hit all of them every time and hope the one that's being read's in there.
It's a real scumbag move.
Yeah, and you get a lot of people in the audience going, "Oh, that's a huge fucking gamble because they're all right there, and it's super easy to fault if you're just kind of going every time." And surprise, surprise, Kana gets cards from there, and he faults a lot, and he ends up losing. And then we go over to the Taichi Nishida match, and they're down to 1 card each, which apparently in Karata turns the game into a 50-50 game of luck type thing, where basically the first card that gets read is the one that wins. Which is kind of shitty, I guess.
Yeah, that sucks. Because it seems like the positioning of the last card, you just have it right next to you, right next to your right hand, so it's almost impossible for the other person to take that card if it gets read.
Yeah, Taichi tries. He tries real hard, but he isn't able to pull it out.
They should make it a draw if that happens.
How? Yeah, I mean, I guess...
There's no reason not to, really.
I guess a good enough person could maybe pull it out, but...
I doubt it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you would fix that. But
just make it a draw,
I guess. But I feel like the big thing to take away from this episode is after this, Taichi's pretty bummed, and Nishida goes and kind of comforts him some. And I forget what brings it up, but he says something about Chihaya being an airhead who can't even use people's real names, and she is upset about that and starts trying to change to be better. And they're like, "Oh, no, don't worry about it. We like you are. Thanks for trying."
Kind of goes back to me, as I keep repeating, the male characters in this show are arseholes.
I mean, he was justified in that comment to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree, but I think the nicknames are harmless and her being an airhead, like, ain't her damn fault.
I guess. I mean, I know I don't like being called nicknames, so I understand it, but
Well, I'm cool with it.
I really don't like nicknames. Let's see what else. We learned that at Class D, just getting to second place is good enough to advance you. So both Kana and Tsutomu are Class C now. Nishida and Taichi still need to win one Class B tournament each to advance. And at the end, we see that Arata is entering a tournament to start training for the Master Qualifiers. And that's this episode.
Oh, that reminds me, I'm not sure if this is this episode or not, but is this the one where, like, Chihaya sees Arata playing and it's, like, this whole water metaphor going on?
That's this next one.
Oh, okay.
Because Taichi's going to a tournament a little farther away. I think I forget where it was, but you have to take like a couple trains to get there. And their faculty supervisor is also Chihaya's homeroom teacher, and she's like, "You're not going to that tournament because your grades suck, girl. You need to study, or else you're gonna repeat the grade, and that's bad." So the teacher gets Tsutomu to tutor her, and also Nishida's there too, because he's, I guess, a bit more personally responsible and realizes that he needs his grades up, so figures he might as well get on the free tutoring. But Chihaya sneaks out of the tutoring session and goes to the tournament to cheer on Taichi, who is, I think is this the qualifier? No, this isn't the qualifier. This is just the last tournament before the qualifier, I think.
Yeah, I think this is him attempting to try and win another B tournament so he can go on to A, right?
Yeah, this is Taichi's last chance to get A before the Master Qualifier, which you need to be Class A for. Arata's there because he's getting back into the swing of things since he's been out of the game for a while. And he gives Taichi a note with his contact details to give to Chihaya. And then, so Chihaya has ditched her study session, but she doesn't get there until after Taichi's already lost. Which, that sucks for Taichi. He's trying to get his Class A so he can play Arata. And Arata was disappointed when Taichi was there and wasn't Class A, I guess, and just kind of brushed him off a little bit, it felt like. Is that how it felt to you?
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it might have been more of a friendly ribbing type thing, but...
Certainly didn't feel friendly.
Yeah. But then Chihaya gets there to be able to watch Arata lose, and this is where the water thing comes in. She notices that his play is real smooth and his timing is good and he's fast and he's basically perfect at the game. And she wants to figure out how to get that feeling for herself.
Yeah, but the reason I bring this up and this is a classic me thing is I think it's later on in the episode, like probably even right as it ends, she talks about gulping the soft water up or something like that. The way that it was phrased in a really weird way. And I started thinking that the whole water thing was, and her saying that was like a metaphor for drinking cum.
That's a strange place to go.
Yeah, but you know, it's classic me.
I
just had to bring it up, man. I couldn't get it out of my head. It was so weird.
You're a crass dude.
I guess I am.
But anyway, Arata loses and he bounces. Chihaya's in tears because she's happy that Arata's like for sure back into Karta and they're all playing kind of together again. But Taichi gives Arata back the note saying that if he wants Chihaya to have his deets, then he needs to give them to her himself. And Arata says that he was kind of cold and unsure because he wasn't sure if they were together and he didn't want to step on toes. And Taichi's like, no, not like that, no, friends, just friends.
It's a rare good move from one of the male characters in this show.
Yeah. But after that, I think it's Kana somehow tracks down Chihaya. I think they were like pressuring her through texts, I think, to get back to studying.
Yeah, I definitely remember that happening.
And she gets a pretty passive-aggressive text from Tsutomu saying that she's, I guess, running away from her responsibilities, just do things she wants, and she needs to be a more responsible person, which it's a good point, even if it is passive-aggressive. But she kind of sees that, and she gets pretty hard into studying after that. And the last thing was that Dr. Harada's traveling back home with Taichi because they went together because there's somebody else from their society. I think they were all... The Taichi and the other guy and Harada were all in the tournament, right?
I don't know, something like that. I can't remember perfectly.
Yeah, but Dr. Harada knows how important hitting Class A is for Taichi. So that he can get into the Masters qualifiers. So he offers to break his society rule and promote him to Class A. And Taichi says, no, even more than winning, I want to learn to not run away from my problems. Which is, I thought that was a nice moment there for Taichi.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Sort of undercut by the persistent problem of the soundtrack being way too overblown, but the actual character moment was fine.
Mm-hmm. I think that the music is an especially sore point because we came from Kids on the Slope, which has a fantastic soundtrack.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the remarkable thing about Kids on the Slope is they didn't... Like, that show's soundtrack isn't all jazz, you know? They switched up styles and used music that was appropriate for the scene tonally, you know?
Yeah. There's still, like, jazz undertones in most of the soundtrack, but...
Yeah, but not in the...
It's not overt.
Yeah, not in the, like, freestyle band jazz sort of style that they're all going with the other stuff.
Yeah, they have different styles of jazz in there, which there are a lot of. There are a ton.
It's probably one of the most expansive genres there is.
I'm not surprised. But anyway, the last episode here, we see that we learn about Taichi's weakness is kind of the opposite of Chihaya's, where he thinks too much before he does, because he thinks of it as like a purely memorization challenge, pretty much, and that he needs to start, like, I guess, shadow boxing type thing, to start learning speed and learning the distance to the cards to be more accurate, be faster, be able to react more on reflex, be more like Chihaya, mostly. And Chihaya needs to be more like him. This is the qualifier tournament, right? Or is this just another turn? No, this isn't another tournament this is the qualifier because there were no more tournaments before the qualifier.
I can barely remember. All these episodes are more of a jumble in my head.
And we see the weird mean kid from the other school again because he's good. And he mentions to Chihaya that you can get scholarships for doing well in national card tournaments, and that apparently she was super focused before, and that through her offer game, which is exacerbated by the fact that Pseudo proposes that they make a bet the first one of them to get knocked out of the tournament needs to shave their head. So she's worried about those two things, which takes her out of it. And they're all calling her dumb for being lured into his trap. But this is kind of the end of the Chihaya needs to learn to think arc, because she plays a little kid who is being touted as a child prodigy, and they're saying that she's going to be the next queen. And she's super fast, and Chihaya's having trouble keeping up with that speed. But she eventually gets her timing down and she's not pulling ahead, but she's not falling too far behind either. And Dr. Harada sees that she has her timing back, or she has the timing down. So they have like a weird telepathic lip reading moment thing where he says, press the NOS button. And she's like, okay. And she does it, and she beats the little girl up.
That was a good sentence.
Yeah. And then Dr. Harada explains his motivation, or the reason he told Chihaya to stop using her speed, and it's because he wants her to have more tools than just her natural card talent. He wants her to be a well-rounded competitor, because that's the only way she'll win. And then we go over to the Western qualifier where Arata is, and we see that apparently this is the person that Arata usually played at his society, but he lost the first round and is real bummed. And this is where we start hearing that the current master is super, super strong, and that he thinks that no one can beat him. And the episode ends with a text from Taichi to Arata saying that Chihaya won her first match and that he expects Arata to win the Western Finals. So get on it. And Arata wins his first match as well.
Things are looking up for our Karada heroes. Will they win the matches? Tune in next time. Blah, 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 blah.
And there's stuff with the little girl about how she was teased and how Karada is how she feels like a person who's able to do things, able to be not teased, I guess. I'm not sure what the word I'm going for is. It's a place she fits in, the Karada world, because she's good. And her and Chihaya have a bonding moment.
Oh, apparently she's made fun of due to the size of her ears, and I don't think I've ever heard kids use that as a taunt before.
Japanese school kids are fucking mean, my dude. We had 3 whole episodes on that.
Yeah, like, kids are little dickheads and they'll use anything to try and get under somebody's skin, so
yeah,
I'm not going to dock the show for that.
Yeah, they have a nice moment. Who knows, maybe that girl will be back. I wouldn't be surprised.
Like, the first couple of episodes of this show, and then demonstrating, like, how shitty kids can be to each other is actually probably one of the stronger moments in the show's run so far.
Mm-hmm. Like we said, the show has good moments, and when they're good, they're really good. But it's not like Kids on the Slope, where it's all good moments.
Yeah, this show has extended, like, just moments of just get to the damn point already, which is, I guess, more than anything, that's my core problem with the show.
Yeah, but you know what? We only have 4 more episodes left, so I'm sure you're happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the show. I'm definitely not hating it as much as I hated the
last set.
Yeah, the last set was a real rotten bunch of episodes.
Mainly the last one you didn't like.
Oh yeah, that more than anything.
But after this, I figure we'll maybe do a couple specials. Let's see. I think, okay, so this one will probably go out, I don't know, this will go out at the beginning of next week, because Sunday's pretty hard when we record so late. So we'll have one more. And maybe 1 or 2 more specials. We have a date that we're recording the Satoshi Kon special with Mary Kish. So that'll hopefully be out at the beginning of July. That's going to be a longer one, so it's going to take me longer to edit, so I'm not going to give a release date on that, but we have a recording date. So it's coming soon. So we'll do 1 or 2 more specials, and then we'll start on Monster, which is, we're probably going to do, I'm thinking we do lower episodes of the anime per episode of the podcast, just because it's a slower, a little bit more dense show than stuff we've watched before.
Hell, whatever works.
So I think there might be more recap. We can always adjust it on the fly. But I feel like there might be more recap necessary, just because there's more going on. And so I don't want to have super long episodes.
Yeah, I still feel like there's maybe a bit more of an elegant way to do the recaps, but, you know, what we're doing now seems to work, I guess.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, as I've said constantly, if anyone listening has better suggestions, send them in to us. Comment on the YouTube, send us email, anything to that we have a Something Awful. Well, it's not our thread, but we post in a podcast thread on Something Awful. You can give it to us there too.
You can find us on the internet.
Yep, I tried to be pretty everywhere with us, so there's lots of ways to reach us. I guess we can move into that stuff. Next week we're finishing the show, 22 through 26? 25?
Yep. 26?
25.
25?
Yeah.
I can't count.
Yes, 22 through 25 next week. Like I said before, you can email us at anime@gamekiwi.net. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/thegamekiwi. on Twitter at twitter.com/ or we're on Twitter at the Game Kiwi. Podcasts.gamekiwi.net, youtube.com/gamekiwi. All those good places. We're on iTunes under PodKiwi. That's like our RSS. That's all the podcast stuff. So when I eventually get the tabletop RPG podcast, that'll be in there too. Any movie podcasts we do will be in there. Unless something gets popular enough to deserve its own feed, everything's going in there. Because podcast hosting's expensive.
Well, we should probably do it in a way that's free then. I know, YouTube.
YouTube's not ideal for podcasts.
It's ideal for giving me that money.
Who's giving you money?
I need that fat YouTube money, yo.
Yeah, I don't get government money, so I need it more.
That's true.
Anyways, that's the podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Cat Doda.
Thanks for listening, and as always, keep it anime.